You want to hear something funny? I've heard some slang words used on the radio that I haven't heard since the 50s. My name is Eric, and welcome to the craziness that lives inside my head. There's a lot of slang words I've heard. I'm not a slang person. When I was coming up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, even in the 80s, I very rarely used slang words. I'm one of those people, if I did use them, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I used them wrong. Well, anyway, I was listening to this radio show, and it's a men's radio show, and these guys together was talking about hanging out and doing this and doing that. And one guy was talking about his crew that he hang out with, and he called them his cats. And he said, yeah, my cat, meaning his friend, yeah, he came over there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, I haven't heard that terminology of a guy, friend, since the 50s. I remember the 50s. I remember guys, I was young. I was 5 or 6 years old. But I do remember they did use that terminology, cat, meaning a guy friend. This cat came in the bar and he did this and this cat did that. And I haven't heard that since the 50s. And I was really shocked. Because that terminology, for me, it didn't last long. Because by the time I was old enough to use slang, it wasn't cat. But I will tell you this, that's a very interesting slang, is homie. Let's take homie. My dad used to always talk about his homeboys. For him, his homeboys, and he was from Virginia. We lived in New York City. So if a guy is from Virginia, from the town that he's from, that was his homeboy. So when I hear my dad use the term, my homeboy, I knew what he meant. He didn't mean in the neighborhood. He meant a guy or guys that he grew up with in his hometown in Virginia, which is very interesting. It made a lot of sense. Then as I got into high school, I heard the terminology homeboy. And homeboy, I guess, meant to my generation at the time was the boys that lived in your neighborhood. Those were your homeboys. And then, of course, it turned out they changed the way they say homeboys. Is it homie? My homie? They got another terminology, my bestie. My bestie. I guess that's my best friend. My bestie. I'm your bestie. Now, the terminology I did not like, and I talked about this sometime to friends of mine. I heard when I was in high school, guys used to call their girlfriends bitches. And I said to a friend, why are you calling your girlfriend a bitch? And he looks at me and he says, she's fucking all the guys in class. Well, when he said that, I'm like, well, I guess she is a bitch if she's fucking all the guys in class. And then when I think it was in the 80s, I heard the terminology, the girls was calling their boyfriends niggas. And I used to think, why would you use that terminology to call? I wouldn't want to hang out or go out with a nigga. And then, in my opinion, and someone said that I took the terminology, in my opinion, I thought nigga means a low class person, period. But someone said, no, nigger, it means is how you say, another way of saying niggard, Negro and all like that. But I'm like, okay. But I want to tell you something. Every time I hear a girl or even a guy will say, yeah, he's my nigger or she's my nigger. And then, because like I said, in my mind, when you use that terminology, that means that they're low class. They don't have no. And usually, in my experience, the people that I knew who used those terminology, they were going out with niggas. A girl would say, oh, this is my nigga. Yeah, because he's home. She's working her ass off. He's home in bed, either smoking reefer or drinking and watching TV, and she's working her ass off. Yes, that is your nigga. That's how I look at it when you use that terminology. So anyway, but this is a very short podcast. I'm just ranting on about the slang. There's something else I want to say in this little podcast. I heard a terminology. I have a friend who's a teacher, and he claims that I don't know what claims, but he claims. Well, I should say he claims. They supposedly did a study on it that a lot of kids today. This is 2023. A lot of black kids today can't read and write. I mean, I know there's a situation in my family where a nephew of mine who was 12 years old couldn't read and write. I heard they fixed that. He was late teens now, but they fixed it. But when he was 12 years old, he couldn't read and write. I'm like, how can you not know how to read and write at 12 years old? And I told people, when I was coming up, I had a step grandfather who was definitely in his 30s, because if I was 5, he had to be in his 30s and 40s. He couldn't read and write. He couldn't. I remember in order for him to get a driver's license, he had his brother sit with him, and they allowed this. I heard they still do it today. That's a friend of mine say. They do it to people who doesn't speak English. But his brother sat with him, and as the woman, read off he had to read the question to my step-grandfather, who had to answer. He had to put the answer down, because my grandfather couldn't read and write. This is back in the 50s. So now we're talking about 2023, and there's still black people who can't read and write? Yeah, that's sad. That's very sad. They need to get their ass off those videos and learn to pick up a book. And I can't really say too much, because they used to say that to me in the 60s. We used to read comic books. Put away your comic books. You need to read a book or read a newspaper. So here we are in 2023. So there's no comic books, but they got they got videos. So what's the sense of learning how to read or even want to read when all you could do is turn the video on, listen to the voice, or turn to YouTube, and they're talking to you? There's no incentive to learn how to read and write. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I don't want to get involved in that conversation, because we be talking all night. My name is Eric, and thank you for listening to the craziness that lives inside my head.